Feminism is an extremely polarizing topic. There are people that argue adamantly for it and adamantly against it. Finding hate and disgust of the opposite sex on both sides of the argument is common. Today we will tread through the minefield and discuss reasons why feminism and femininity are incompatible. VidarReturns. When talking against feminism, one can be certain that the pitchforks are already out and ready to attack. We'll be labeled as chauvinist and sexist, and will be dismissed and demonized from the start. So with that in mind, we have no illusions of trying to settle the feminist versus anti-feminist debate. Among greater society, it is pretty well acknowledged that feminism is already the dominant narrative of political correctness. What isn't so prevalent anymore in modern society is femininity. People in modern society rarely use and barely understand this word anymore, so it would help if we took a moment to clarify what it is we're talking about. When we look at the dictionary definition of feminine, this is what we find. Of or relating to women or girls, characterized by or possessing qualities traditionally attributed to women, such as demureness, effeminate, womanish. Other than demureness, the dictionary really doesn't detail what specific qualities are traditionally attributed to women, though since the beginning of written history there are things that have remained relatively constant. And when we look to stories of goddesses and ideal women of multiple ancient civilizations, we find similarities that come up again and again. The most common feminine attributes of women being fertility, mothering, nurturing, caregiving, beauty, chastity, family, tenderness, and rejuvenation. The ancient Norse goddess Achilois' name literally meant she who washes away pain. Regardless of what extreme feminists may want to believe, there are biological functions that just never change. In every species of mammal, the most female thing any creature can ever do in its life is give birth to young and nurse those young. There is nothing more representative of female essence than this. A male is specifically and genetically incapable of such functions. All of the female attributes coming together to contribute to the continuation of a people and our species. So it makes sense that such attributes would be revered throughout time. Then the question becomes, how do we claim feminism impedes on these attributes of femininity? To begin, there is nothing and no reference in feminist ideals to the enhancement of any feminine attributes listed here. And in the absence of feminine attributes, there is no continuation of our species. But since feminist philosophy generally does not reference nor promote the continuation of our species, then we may safely assume it is precisely unconcerned with it. The core of feminism is to divide, aka liberate, woman from man. And one such method of dividing women from men is through removing of shame for sexual promiscuity. This is expressed in a number of ways, from women in pornography to anti-slut shaming campaigns. Shame can hurt a person's feelings and embarrass them amongst their peers, so giving women consequence-free sex could seem like a solution. But the problem is that you just can't turn off the switch of biology. Consequence-free sex only works in a consequence-free universe. In the real universe, there are consequences, so let's look at some of them. Here's data showing the correlation between women having non-marital partners before marriage and their statistical likelihood of resulting divorce after marriage. As we can see, it's almost a perfectly rising pattern of higher promiscuity and higher divorce. It stands to deduce that there is likely a good reason why chastity has historically been considered a feminine attribute. Sexual activity reserved for the traditional union is more stable. As promiscuity of women increases, so does the probability of marriage ending in divorce. This is not only destructive for the essence of the female and family, it's destructive for children and destructive for communities. The next thing we look at is education. Feminists badly want females to go to higher education and university. In Western countries, there are often more females in higher education than males. Women are heavily encouraged to preoccupy their time with education during their most fertile years, telling women to focus on education and career and not on finding a life partner. They will claim they are just giving females more opportunity and letting them be themselves. Except that couldn't be more opposite from the truth. When we look at the statistics of what careers women freely choose to work in, we find fields of nurturing and caring for others, all deeply feminine attributes. The top 3 fields we see here are nursing practitioners and those related with healing patients. Staunch feminists don't want that, and in recent decades, feminists have been pushing a strong, concerted campaign to encourage females into computing and software engineering instead, careers in which a person works mostly alone and with mathematical thinking, which has historically been the field of males. This is the campaign to promote females in STEM. Science, technology, engineering, and math is strongly being promoted in all Western education. If you haven't seen it yet, then you will. This is part of the illusion of being pro-options for females, while simultaneously pushing them where to go. Let us note that education and career itself is a factor working against females also, against the female attribute of motherhood specifically. Statistics show that across the world, the more educated a female is, the less likely she is to have children. In every country, as females increase in education, the statistical number of children they will birth goes down. Not having children is certainly one of the greatest detrimental impacts that could affect the continuation of any people. Across every developed nation of the globe, we are seeing declining birth rates. And if you ask any prominent feminist figure, then there's a good chance they'll tell you that's a, quote, good thing. When we look at quotes from some of the popular feminists, we might get a better idea of how feminism could be destructive to females and the family. To quote Kate Millett, "The complete destruction of traditional marriage and the nuclear family is the revolutionary or utopian goal of feminism." To quote Germaine Greer, "I'm passionately opposed to the nuclear family with its mom and dad and their 2.4 children. I think it's the most neurotic lifestyle ever developed." Popular feminists outright discouraging the concept of families, of men and women and children. Their goal is division of women from men by means of dividing women first from their own femininity. And after a nation of females have been divided against themselves and against men, then we are told that it's men's fault for not being able to cope with feminism, that they just aren't men enough, or they're toxic men, or they're immature boys, or some other derogatory excuse. Blaming men is easy. Not only does this deflect from any real answer, but it also fuels the bitter divide between men and women. And so people take extreme positions and support them with ideological irrationality. Here's a popular answer from the website Quora in regards to the juxtaposition between feminism and femininity. Quote, "Everything a woman is and does is feminine because it's done by a woman." That statement could make sense on first glance, but then it doesn't if you take more than 5 seconds to think about it. By that logic, everything a man does would also be masculine. If a man has his genitals voluntarily cut off, then do we consider that masculine? If a female has artificial male genitals surgically attached to her body, then do we consider that feminine? Of course not. Femininity and masculinity come from our biology. We are creatures of the earth, from nature, whose biology has guided us since the inception of time. But the male and female sexes are not exactly opposite. Instead, male and female are rather symbiotic, like a bee and a flower. When one half of the equation is unbalanced, then the other will struggle to properly fulfill its purpose. When males naturally desire the femininity in females, then comes derogatory terms like toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is anything men do that doesn't serve feminism, and the transformation of women being separate and independent from men and family. Encouraging women to stay home, be mothers, and be faithful to their husbands and family is toxic masculinity. Furthering our species and our people is a form of female oppression. This recording is not to, quote, expose feminism, nor argue with feminists, nor shame feminists. Also, this recording won't convince those that are already sold on the ideas and illusion of feminism. The burger-chugging champion doesn't think to reconsider his diet or even think there's a problem with his diet until the day he has a heart attack, and by then it's often too late. In recent decades, we have seen the rise of transgenderism, biological males and females pretending to be the opposite sex. There's a hard minority group of feminists that wildly oppose transgenderism because they understood feminism to be only goodies for the girls. But the wider movement of feminism and political correctness accepts transgender women just as any biological female, and this trend will not go away. Switching and flipping between genders, in fact, will only grow stronger. The lines of what it means to be a male or female in society will only become more and more blurred. But why? Wasn't feminism about opportunity for oppressed biological females? In our next recording, we'll discuss this more in depth. Feminism only came to gain growth in the same era as mass product consumerism. Today, women are responsible for 70 to 80% of all consumer purchases. Feminism has always been about getting women working and producing products instead of children. Manufacturing desires, consumerism, and a materialist society. The ultimate goal to make both males and females relatively asexual creatures while continually spreading the propaganda of world, quote, overpopulation. Promoting as virtuous, multigender, metrosexual, transsexual, asexual, and anything other than heterosexual family life. Keeping the economic machine churning with workers, not staying home with children. If the machine needs more children, then they can simply be imported from a third world country. Feminism is nothing but a useful ideology in generating the consumerist nation. There's a good video worth watching by James Corbett that briefly touches on these concepts and how he believes transgenderism is the initial stages of transhumanism. Link in the description for that, and recommended to subscribe to his content. As a final point, we should acknowledge the accidental irony of feminism, as most of feminism tends to be anti-capitalist. Capitalism may not be bad in all forms per se, but the effects of modern-day societal, corporate consumer capitalism needs feminism. It breeds feminism. It fosters a population of individuals that are always craving the next new shiny thing that they can buy and show off as a status symbol to their neighbors and friends, or to consume the next product that is going to indulge their material and hedonist pleasures, if only for a short time, before lusting for the next product. And corporate consumer capitalism needs the lives of both men and women to continuously feed this economic engine. In the absence of this engine, all of feminism would evaporate instantly. Again, we'll dive deeper into that with our next recording, so follow to stay updated. To conclude, feminists use methods like social pressure, systems of education, and demonization of their opposition to forward their message. And while their message is constantly attacking several feminine attributes, such as stable family, nurturing, and birthing children, there is a positive note. That feminists, pretend as they might, don't represent all females. Biology is strong, and there will always be those females that find their better purpose in life. Females that want to have children, loving husbands, and the soft sound of little children scurrying about the home. Feminists will never represent our females, our mothers, our wives, our women, who follow the life purpose handed down by our ancestors. To feminists, these females don't count and don't exist. But these family-first females, our women, that love men and children, they are the greatest women in the world. Men and women, symbiotically, working in tandem, together, for the future, for our future of tomorrow. Follow now to catch our next recording, The Cookie-Cutter Human, Advanced Technological Society Realized, when we'll explain how people will give up their actual identities in exchange for generic and artificial identities and be reduced to cogs, all while further disconnecting from biology, nature, and heritage. You can find all our content on Steemit, Gab, Minds, and Odyssey networks, and live chat on the Matrix and Session networks. Also, if you haven't already, you can see our previous recording titled Fake COVID Death Numbers Revealed, How They Are Counting, where we revealed how they are fudging and manipulating data to make COVID-19 into something larger than reality. We send out love to all our brothers and sisters. Stay blessed. VidarReturns.